What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of LeafLink's Flower Power series, where we shine a light on LeafLink customers and organizations making an impact in the cannabis industry and their local communities. Hi, I'm Alex, Senior Manager of Field Marketing and Events here at LeafLink. I've been in the cannabis industry for over 4 years, and I'm excited to bring you weekly interviews with industry leaders and change makers who are driving innovation and advocacy in the space. Today, we're joined by Jason Ortiz, who is the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Last Prisoner Project. Last Prisoner Project is a national, nonpartisan, nonprofit founded in 2019 with one core mission: release every cannabis prisoner and repair the systemic harms of the war on drugs. Thanks for joining us today, Jason.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Right on. So let's jump right into it. For folks who may not be familiar, what is Last Prisoner Project all about, and what kind of work are you leading there?
Sure. So the Last Prisoner Project was formed in 2019 by our founding board, which was Andrew D'Angelo, folks like Sarah Gersten, who's our current executive director, Mary Bailey, who's our operations director. They all formed it in 2019 as they started to see the cannabis industry develop, but criminal justice reform in a lot of ways was being left behind. And so we saw lots of legal states come on board with Massachusetts and California, but none of the states were actually releasing cannabis prisoners as they legalized cannabis. And so LPP was formed to make sure that folks had both legal support. So those that are currently incarcerated, we provide lawyers for them to be able to file their paperwork. We also provide money for their commissaries so that folks can get the basic necessities they need while they're inside. And then also supporting their families, both through emotional support, but also financial support. And when folks get released from prison, a grant to help them get a car or a place to stay or whatever they need to kind of get back on their feet. And I think lastly, the most important thing, or one of the more powerful things we do, is provide community for folks when they come out. And so we give them a space to meet other folks that have gone through similar experiences, but also bring them to DC so that they can rally and advocate for changing the laws, because right now, we're still putting people in prison for cannabis. So one of the things we believe at LPP is we're never going to get to the last cannabis prisoner until we federally legalize and stop putting more folks in prison. So personally, I work on the policy side of all this, where we try to expand eligibility for release. So some states have pardon boards, some states have a governor as the person in charge, and figuring out how we can make it easier for folks to get released. And then lastly, I also am one of the main organizers of the Cannabis Unity Coalition that brings together folks from the left and the right to for Congress to take action. And that is what I most focus on these days.
Got it. What's something most people would be shocked to learn about the work LPP is doing?
Shocked is that, I mean, like, we get a report of roughly 10 to 12 people every week that get released. And so it's one of the things that I think folks see it happen a little bit here and there. You might just hear about the pardons in the media, but actually we're getting folks out every week, right? And so that could be reducing their sentences by a few weeks, or months, or years. But we've actually gotten back roughly just under 400 years back for folks that have been incarcerated.
That's great.
And so that is probably the one that I think it actually happens more often than people think about it. We just don't really put it out there. Not everybody wants everyone to know that they're released, but it's definitely something that we are very successful at, I think, more than people realize.
Right on. Can you briefly share what sparked your commitment to drug justice?
I'll give you the brief version of it, but it's very simple and direct. I was arrested for cannabis possession when I was in high school, and I've been pissed about it ever since, right? And
right on.
No, but I was 16. I was smoking on the way to school, and some folks called the school and let them know that we were smoking. And so as soon as we stepped foot on campus, got surrounded by security guards. It was this whole big show of force that I didn't really understand why it was going that way. And then eventually the cops showed up, and that's when I really freaked out. But I got expelled from school. I had just turned 16, so it was actually happened in November, and I had turned 16 in September. And I was with two friends, one of which was 15, and they tried to charge me with intent to sell to a minor. Two of us with the 15-year-old. And the 15-year-old got 5-day suspension. The two 16-year-olds got expelled for the rest of the year. So immediately I was like, these laws are crazy, like what we're doing. And you could see, compared to other drugs or fighting, it was just really ridiculous. And then of course I ended up in the criminal justice system. And so when you go to court and you start to see how the court process works, you realize this whole system is madness, right? And so
upside down.
Yeah, so that was it. That really got me involved. Eventually did go to college, joined Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and that org helped me turn my anger into policy change, because I was only able to be there because the cannabis movement changed the federal financial aid penalties. And so because of that small change, I was able to go to college, and I found out about it in college as I was doing drug policy work. And so then I saw okay, this is how you can make a big impact, is actually changing the laws.
That's awesome. That's crazy. Oh man. Last Prison Project has been known for its clemency campaigns, record clearing initiatives, and reentry programs. Is there a recent project, maybe like a pardon granted, a clinic you held, a family you reunited, that touched you deeply?
Oh man. So yeah, I think I got to work really closely with Mitzi Wall, who is somebody whose son has not been released yet, right? But we've been working very closely with her. And I think it really is working with the families directly and seeing the impact of folks, because that's where you realize this isn't just like a policy thing, like the real families that are involved. And Mitzi Wall, her son, Jonathan Wall, was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for his first offense as a cannabis offender.
Wow.
Right? In federal prison, right? And so, and he's still there. You know, another case that really touches my heart is Edwin Ruiz, who's somebody that we have not gotten out yet. And so he's somebody that got sentenced to 40 years in prison in the 90s and didn't actually get caught with any cannabis at all. He got ratted out by a bunch of other folks. And he has a 28-year-old son that I got to meet recently, Juan, and we were doing work in Texas on the hemp bill. And so he's 28 and his dad has been in prison for 26 of those years. So it's really the cases that are still ongoing that I think kind of motivate me the most, because I do get to wake up every day and be like, how am I going to fight to get people their freedom, right? And so like that is a very unique place to be in, and I've had lots of jobs over the years that don't have quite that much meaning. But again, like every Friday, I get that list of people that get released. And so there have been so many different types of folks that we've gotten to work with. I think the story that probably inspires me the most is actually the story with Dante Kyle and Deshaun Durham. So Dante West is one of our staff members. He freed himself from prison and like did his own legal paperwork, got the attorney general to like reach out to him, like did his amazing work. When he was released, he then went back and helped Kyle Page, who is now a dispensary owner in New Jersey, get his freedom. Right. And so I first got to meet Kyle when we went to DC, and he was a speaker in front of the White House to tell his story. Between the first Unity Week and the second one, they went back to Kansas a third time and got Deshaun Durham out. And so now Deshaun Durham joined us this past Unity Week to also say what he had to say to the White House. So I would say the moment the three of them got to go on stage together to actually like yell at the White House and tell President Trump to pardon our people, you know, that's when I can see our work coming full circle and not just being successful on the like getting them their freedom, but making them spokespeople to help get other people out. I think that sort of pulling folks out as we keep going is definitely the thing that keeps me going every day.
Yeah, that's amazing work y'all are doing. With over 40,000 cannabis prisoners still behind bars, what do you see as the biggest policy gap today, and how can individuals or businesses help close it?
So I think one of the things that I've been a bit frustrated with is like we've gotten tremendous success at the state level, but we're hitting a wall now. There's very few states that are like itching towards legalization. Pennsylvania is probably the last one that's really moving. Florida, maybe. We know that's a bit weird in Florida, right? Like, but there's hope there in Florida. But after that, the entire South is not going to legalize, like, you know, through the legislature anymore. So to me, it really is the focus has to shift to the federal level. And at the federal level, the industry has sort of sucked a lot of the air out of the room with bills like safe banking and things like that, which I support those bills, but that's not real legalization. And so for me, we've been working very closely with the Cannabis Caucus co-chairs, which are Ilhan Omar, Diamond Titus from Nevada, and then David Joyce, who's a Republican from Ohio, is really the main proponent that we've been working with moving forward. And so we really want to see 3 bills get passed in this Congress, which is going to be difficult, but we're going to do it. And that is the Prepare Act, which would create a cannabis commission to study how we would move forward with legalization. It would be the first government entity that is specifically designed to figure out how we would legalize, right? So that would be the first big step. States Act 2.0 would protect all the current cannabis businesses that currently exist in the regulated markets from federal enforcement, so that as we study how to do this, we're not knocking down the stuff we've already built. And then lastly is the Evidence-Based Drug Policy Act that would allow ONDCP, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, to actually report positive findings of research on cannabis. So like right now, our research arm for the government is by law prevented from saying anything good about weed. And so we have to remove that to have an honest conversation. And so I think if we can package these 3 bills that do all have bipartisan support, we can really put us on the foothold so that hopefully in the future and maybe in the next Congress, when the House control switches over, we can pass a real full legalization bill and get it to the president's desk. It has happened one time out of the House. The MORE Act passed out of the House. That was the last time in 2020. And so we're ready to get another thing past the House through the Senate into a presidential signature this administration.
It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, there's a lot of different coalitions, and it's wild because it's like there's industry coalitions and left coalitions and right ones, and that's not even talking about Congress, right? So first we got to get all our cats in order, and then we have to deal with the mess that is Congress. But it's, this is the big win. This is the big W. This is like we're talking finally ending prohibition once and for all. So of course it's going to be complicated, but all of those moving parts means we have an incredible amount of public support. Like the actual public opinion is definitely with us. So if we can get our powers aligned, we can get it done.
Awesome. Jason, for listeners who want to support LPP's mission by advocating, volunteering, donating, writing letters, what's the best next step for them?
Yeah, just go to lastprisonerproject.org. All of those things are right there on the website. We have the letter writing campaign that's under the Take Action page. You'll see right at the top drop down. And that's definitely something that our folks have said that when they're inside, getting those letters does mean a lot to them and really keeps their spirits up. And it's why they come out ready to become advocates. I would also say definitely take a look at the Unity Week, Unity Coalition. We have all kinds of events that happen throughout the country. Specifically around 420 in April, we do a big mobilization in DC. But between now and then, we're going to be pushing for those 3 bills. But really, lastprisonerproject.org, take a look at all the different pieces, see what vibes with you, see what kind of work you really like to do, and then go ahead and start doing it. And contact me. I'm Jason at lastprisonerproject.org. Happy to help talk through, folks, what makes sense for you and your community.
Perfect. Yeah, Jason, we really appreciate you being here and for the work LPP is doing to fight and support those affected by cannabis convictions. If you'd like to learn more, for y'all listening or get involved, please visit lastprisonerproject.org. You can follow them on Instagram, LinkedIn. I believe you're on Twitter as well.
Yep.
And that's a wrap for today. We'll be back every week with more inspiring interviews. So stay tuned and keep listening. And don't forget to follow LeafLink for the latest cannabis industry insights. And see you next week. Jason, thanks so much for being on there.
Thank you. Si se puede. We're going to get it done.
We can do it. Let's go.